On the 19th of July 2024, the International Court of Justice delivered a historic advisory opinion. Its findings were unequivocal. The court held that Israel's continued presence in the occupied Palestinian territories is unlawful, that it must end, that its presence, as rapidly as possible, that it must cease all new settlement activity and evacuate the settlers, and that it must make reparations for the damage caused. That's the considered judgment of the world's highest court, and the court told every state that it must not aid or assist in maintaining that unlawful situation. This bill is part of Ireland's response to that judgment and to the dire conditions in which the people of Palestine live today. Ireland has, of course, recognised the state of Palestine. We've intervened in the South African case genocide case at the ICJ. We've funded UNRWA when others moved to defund and dismantle it, and we stood at the United Nations and the European Council, often almost alone among our partners, and refused to soften the truth of what was being done to tens and thousands of people in Palestine. Famine in our time, and we are a people who knows what famine is: the destruction of homes and hospitals. With this legislation, Ireland joins the first group of EU states to prohibit the importation of goods originating in those illegal settlements. I hope that we will be joined by many others. Once enacted, such importation becomes an offence under the Customs Act. The bill uses the postal codes already identified under the EU-Israel technical arrangement, so it is precise, workable and built to withstand challenge. Now, I know there are many who have discussed the issue of services, and as somebody who would wish to see services included in this bill, I have listened carefully to what the Minister has informed us, and I know that she has sought advice from the Attorney General. It would seem that for goods, EU law provides a public policy exemption that lets a Member State act for services. No equivalent exemption, however, exists in regards to services. We do have to examine the practicality and the legality of implementing that. I know there are more than 120 subcategories of services, and all of that makes it incredibly complex and difficult to implement. I know people have referenced Spain, and I note that they have not banned the trade in services, but the advertisement of those services, and I would support the government including such an amendment in the legislation. I note also that there are people in this House who have voted for a full boycott of the entire Israeli state, and I think we have to be conscious of what a sanction regime should do. Government must act in a way that holds in law and does not wound our own people more than those who we wish to hold to account. All sanctions regimes, all of them implemented, have as their principle the core that we hold the sanctioned state to account more than the countries who implement the sanction. And that is the case with the Russian sanctions. It applies to certain services, certain companies and certain individuals. People in the House here who voted for a total boycott of Israel, I believe, haven't fully thought out the implications of that for Irish people and for the jobs of Irish people. And that is not in any way to say that just because somebody works for a company that might have a small office in part of the Israeli state, that somehow somebody working in leak slip is complicit with genocide is an abhorrent thing to say. Many people who are working for multinational companies condemn what is happening in Gaza, and simply because they work for a company shouldn't mean that they should be punished. What should be punished is the Netanyahu government and the Israeli state who's prosecuting this genocide in Gaza.
Deputy.